I am so sorry about that, folks. We had some technical issues and I was not able to do anything that's sorted out. Unfortunately, most likely means that nobody will be on this with me live, and that is totally fine because the issues are basically all at my end. What I wanted to do is tonight go over the beginning of the class and talk about the first module. And I will be sending this out to everybody, this recording, and so all of you have it. And I'll ask you to watch it as soon as you possibly can, and then get a hold of me with any questions that you have. Again, I am so sorry. I do not know what the technical issues were, and I will do everything in my power to make sure that they do not happen again. But if you aren't on the call live, you can watch it recorded later. So we will use that feature and everybody can watch this later. The class that we are in is, and I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I see. The class that we are in is Art 1010, Introduction to Art. In this class, I want to stress, and I can't stress this enough, you do not need to be an artist to be successful in this class. This is entirely designed to help you to appreciate art more and to perhaps to also hopefully express some of your own artistic drives. You are not going to be graded on how well you do stuff. You are graded on how much you try. You're graded on trying, you're graded on whether you can do the things, and thinking about it, basically. You're not graded on whether or not you're an artist. Now, I do want to stress something that is very important. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit. There are two things that are very specific. One is very important, and one is really vital. Art is a method of communication above everything else. Art is a method of communication. Art is used to tell things and express things that otherwise there'd be no way to talk about. It is a form of communication that is outside of words. Because of that, when we look at art, a lot of the times it is very easy for us to apply our own expectations and our own assumptions onto the art that we see. It can be very easy to be offended. And because art is communication, if we choose to be offended when we look at it, before we start understanding context or learning how it was made or what it might mean, if we choose to be offended first, we lose all opportunity for communication and understanding. So the first thing I need you to do is to relax a little bit and choose not to be offended. It's just like when you go into any conversation with somebody you'd like to have as a friend, you choose at the beginning whether or not you articulate it. You choose at the beginning not to be offended. You're going to listen to them. You're going to hear them out. And that's what I'm asking you to do as we look at art. Now, I have not included anything that is intended to be offensive, but I can't speak for everybody, so I don't know what could hurt somebody's feelings. I do know that when we choose not to be offended, when we feel challenged, and we choose to decide to learn rather than to be offended, that we always experience growth as a result of that. Now, the other thing I want to mention that is really vital is I have been very careful, but art uses as one of the principal subject matters the human form. Many times it's draped. That means there's clothing on it. Occasionally, that means it's not draped, which means it might be nude. The human form has been around as long as humans have, and I do not want anybody to be offended or to think that we're being nasty. There's a lot of beautiful artwork that represents Bible stories, for example, where people are not clothed very much. And our expectations of clothing is based only on our culture for the last several generations, not the entirety of human history. And we may look at stuff that goes back even 2 million years that has been made by smart people. But I want to read this. This is from the department, and I would like to read this. Please listen. During the course of this class, we will study modern and historical artwork. Some of this artwork has been widely accepted as having cultural value, and some of the works have been or are currently controversial. You may also question the value of some of the works that we will examine and discuss. Some of the works we study may contain nudity, deal with sexuality, religion, governmental authority, and other power structures, or be personally or generally offensive to you and or other students in a variety of ways. The public discourse and other conversations surrounding works like these has always represented an important role of both the artist and art in society, and the examination of such works and the debates they foment fall firmly within the purview of a collegiate arts course. We will not shy away from these topics or the associated imagery because they are a significant portion of what we are here to discuss. And please listen to this very carefully. If you are under 18 years old, it is your responsibility to inform the instructor of your course as early in the semester as you can reasonably do so in order for your instructor to make more appropriate accommodations for you. Now, that is very important. And again, I want to stress to you that I have done everything I can to make sure that none of the artwork in here is going to be intentionally offensive to anybody. But I don't know everybody. And I am hoping that you understand that if there is anything that you feel or find to be offensive, please tell me as soon as you possibly can. And I will do whatever I can to make sure that that does not negatively impact your worldview. Again, art communicates, and not everybody is the same. The perspective that we have today in the United States is a very minority perspective in the world at large, and historically, incredibly minority perspective. So just keep that in mind. And please, again, if you are under 18 years old, it is your responsibility to contact me as soon as possible so that I can make alternate arrangements that are more appropriate, if there is anything. Now, I say all that because I need to be completely honest. I have gone through this course several times, and I cannot remember any images that are potentially offensive to anybody. So I hope that is all right with you guys. I would like to go over, I want to talk a little bit about the supplies, and then I want to go over the first module. And we'll talk about that. All right? And what we can expect in the class. My name is Andrew Kosrock. I am a professional artist. I do stained glass and sculpture. I also do a lot of teaching. I teach 3D design. I teach sculptural design. I teach drawing. I teach painting. I teach traditional Turkish stained glass. I teach paper marbling, book binding, other traditional arts, a lot of different kinds of things. And one of the things that I really love about an introduction to art class like this is the exposure to so many different things that we will be looking at. Another thing I really enjoy about this is I have found over the last several years that everybody is good at something. There's a lot of different things that you may not understand or appreciate, but there is going to be at least one thing during the course of our time together that you will really enjoy and you'll be really good at. Just be prepared for that. Now, if you're not necessarily good at it, that's fine too. Remember, I told you that the grade is not dependent on whether or not you're good at the art, whether or not you're a good artist. That doesn't have anything to do with with your grade. Your grade depends on how much you follow the assignment, and how much you try. There's a couple things that I want to say to that. One is, as you do your work, you can expect to spend several hours on each thing. I would recommend right now in looking around your apartment, your home, wherever you live, and finding a space that you can afford to get a little bit messy, and you can always put a tarp down or whatever you need to keep the permanent features of your home relatively unscathed. But find a place that you can dedicate for your work in this class. Again, I said it's going to be several hours, so you're going to be working on this every week. Sometimes a lot of that is going to be just computer work. Sometimes some of that may be reading. Other times it may be stuff that you actually are going to be painting and things like that. What I want you to do is to also decide on days of the week that you're going to work. And I would recommend, instead of doing everything on one day every week, decide on spending 2 to 3 hours on 2 different days of the week, or 1.5 to 2 hours on 3 different days of the week, but spread it out a little bit. Another thing I want you to remember is, well, before we move to that, I want you to also think about this. The more time you spend on something, the better it's going to be. Whether or not it looks better to you, the more time you spend on it, it will be better. You'll learn more and you'll do a better job. Now, the other thing that I want to point out is you will notice that there are due dates for all the assignments. If you do not get a perfect score, don't worry about it. Look at what I said you're missing or what I suggest you might be able to improve, go back, redo it, and then resubmit it. And you can also email me and say, hey, I resubmitted this assignment. That way, you can keep retaking assignments, you can retake quizzes, you can retake anything you want and end up getting a perfect score in this class. And I have had several people do that. People that took the class, and as they were going about halfway through, they realized they were getting a C, so they started resubmitting stuff that I said they could do better on. They started retaking their quizzes, and lo and behold, they got their grades up to an A. And I've seen that several times. Now, you'll notice that this page here that I'm sharing, for an introduction to art class where we'll be dabbling in a lot of different media, the average cost for materials is, I figured, about $165. I don't want you to spend anywhere near that. And in fact, I think you can get it down to about 25 bucks. You use the stuff that you have at home first. See if you can borrow stuff. If you have friends that are also going to school, maybe they took the same class and you can borrow the supplies that they got. A couple of good things that I want you to make sure that you have access to are paper and pencils. I want you to see if you can get a hold of a ruler at some point. But you will also need to access to like a 10 color paint set, and you can do watercolor, acrylic, whatever, it doesn't matter. 10 color means primary and secondary colors plus white, black, and gray, probably brown too. That's usually what is in a 10 color paint set. Paintbrushes. And I was able to buy a lot of this stuff at Walmart. I bought all this stuff together for under 20 bucks. So I'm thinking that you're going to have a lot of this stuff at home already. So you're not going to have to pay a lot for it. Everybody has scissors, everybody has glue, and you can usually find a few paintbrushes. Now, so again, the key is spend as little money as you possibly can on this class. And if you're interested, I can even teach you how to make ink out of stuff that you have. Like if your parents send you huckleberries or blueberries or something like that, I can tell you how to make ink out of that, or grape juice, or a lot of other different stuff. So there's lots of different things that we can do, but the main point I want to make is do everything you can to keep the costs of your materials down. And like I said, most likely you can use stuff you already have. Another thing that we're going to be talking about, and I'm going to stop sharing this really quick. Another thing that we're going to be talking about is how to look at art. I think that is really very important. How to look at art is absolutely vital. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is examining art from different cultures. That's going to be an undercurrent as we go on. I'm going to share my screen again so you can I can show you what I'm looking at. And what we're going to do, you can usually tell art that's from different cultures. And what we're going to be doing is finding out how to describe what it is that makes that art look different. I'm going to click on overview here. And in this one, for this module, we're going to be talking about artistic critique, the Lion King, and the divided mind. Now, most of you know the Lion King, the movie, the Disney movie. That is actually based on a real human being, and I will introduce you to him in just a moment. And we're going to be talking about the divided mind. There is this idea, you probably heard the right and the left mind. Opinions change quite a bit, and new facts always come to light. When I was young, there was this idea that the right side of the mind, or one side of the mind was creative, the other side of the mind was analytical. And today we find that actually different parts of the mind do different functions. There are elements of your mind that are concerned about creativity, other elements of your mind that are concerned regarding puzzle pieces, putting things together, looking at things in a very factual, matter of fact way. Then there's also a part of your mind called the reticular activating system and corpus callosum, two of those together, that help those different parts to interact with each other so that you can creatively use your analytical mind. And it helps your mind to focus on the things that are important to you. When we start talking about artistic critique, what we're talking about is focusing our powers of observation in a very specific way so we can clue in on the things that are important. So I want you to read this section. One of the things I point out in this section is that you can look at different things around you in a variety of different ways. One way that you can look at it is from the perspective that the universe has spent 17 billion years getting you exactly the way you are and putting you right in the position you are. I kind of like that perspective. That really means that everybody is important. The universe has spent a lot of energy getting to you to where you are right now. So it thinks that you're important. If the universe thinks each of us is important, then we should take the time and the trouble to both find out how we can express ourselves and show the respect to the people around us to listen to them. This is where we tie into art critique. When you hear the word critique or critical, a lot of the times it has a negative connotation. Critical actually means with intention, and that's all it means, with intention. When somebody is doing a critique, they are making observations with intention. And as you go through this, I want you to watch this video right here and think about what they're saying, because they're looking at a piece of art. So make sure you watch this video. It's only 6.5 minutes long, and see if you can tell what they're doing. You will notice that at the very first, they will start describing the art and talking about it. Second, they will start talking about perhaps how the art was made, the choices that the artist may have made in putting it together. Third, they may start talking about what it could mean. How are they reacting to it? What could the artist have meant when they made it? And then the fourth thing that they're going to do is talk about now how are they reacting to it after they've looked at it very closely, after they've looked at it with intention. What do you think it could mean? Is it successful? Those are the kinds of questions that they'll ask. And as you go through this module, I want you to go through each of the little sections. Each of them take a couple minutes to read, and think about what you're reading. Because one of the things we're going to do during the course of the semester is we're going to find a culture that you most likely have never even heard about. We're going to look at their art, and you're going to look at it with intention. So you're going to critique their art. And again, critical means doing it on purpose or with intention. So you're going to be, it doesn't mean being mean or nasty. not in this class anyways. You're going to be looking at their art with a critical eye, with intention. You're going to be able to describe the things about that art that make it unique to that culture. And then you're going to make something that you know that they needed back then, 700 years ago, that nobody had. And you're going to make it so that it looks like somebody back then made it. And I'll show you some examples of this later on so you can see what other people have done. You're not going to do that now. That's going to be during the course of the semester. But after you watch this video, I want to share with you a little bit about the Lion King. I don't know if you've heard of a guy named Mansa Musa. I think that a lot of people believe that he was the richest person in the history of the world. He was in Mali, in Western Central Africa, and the impact of his reign, his influence extended throughout almost the entire continent of Africa. That's 54 different countries. Well, his grandnephew was a guy named Sundiata. And Sundiata was a young man who didn't speak until he was 12, didn't even walk until he was 12. And when he was 12, he was irritated at some people annoying his mom, went over, he uprooted a tree by his hands, carried it to a different part of the yard, and then asked his mom in front of her rude friends, "Is this okay, Mom? Did you want more shade over here?" Can you imagine a 12-year-old, never walked, never spoke, uprooting a tree and speaking with perfect sentences all of a sudden? Well, in the area of the world that he was in, it was called the Mali Empire, and it covered, I'm trying to remember, but it covered anywhere from 6 to 12 countries. It was huge. It was a big area that connected the Atlantic Ocean all the way over to Ethiopia by the time that he got done. What Sundiata did was he started going around finding people that had been victimized by rather nasty people. He helped to teach them how to read and write. He made sure that the people that had been treating him badly could not do it anymore. He brought freedom of religion to people, made sure that, like I said, made sure that they could read and write. And when he would conquer an area, everybody that allied themselves with him, he would make his provisional governors. And the really nasty people would then be subjected to the laws of the land. So if they had been hurting people, they would be subjected to the laws and put in prison. And he straightened out a lot of people, but he conquered more land area than Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar, and you most likely never even heard of him. And this is about 700 years ago. The reason we're doing that is because you are going to be using your intentional looking, your intentional thinking to determine how Mali art looks, what defines it as Malinese art, and then you're going to be using it to create something that never existed before, but it looks like the Mali art. And there's been some really amazing things that people have done. Everything from leatherworking and crochet to making a weight set to look like it came out of 14th century Mali. Very, very cool stuff. These are the 4 tools of artistic critique: describing, analyzing, interpretation, and evaluation. We will talk more about this. And I want you, when you go to this section, read this whole thing and look at the elements of art, look at the principles of design. Familiarize yourself with those terms, because as we go on, I want you to be comfortable enough that you can use these words in describing something yourself. When you look at something that somebody else has done, you can say, "Oh yeah, I like that," or "It's pretty." That really doesn't feel like it goes anywhere. Using the principles of artistic critique, what you'll actually be able to say is something along the lines of, "I really like the way that you drew this plant. I mean, it's obviously a flower, I can tell that, but you've stylized it and you've made it so that it's balanced. You use bright and energetic colors, and the line quality is very confident. I love the fact that this looks like a happy flower. It feels that way to me. I really enjoy looking at this work." Now, would you like hearing that? Or would you like hearing, yeah, it's pretty? So these, when we use these kinds of words, it makes us sound so much smarter. And you'll also find that the principles of artistic critique apply to everything, your job, anything else. Now, we're going to talk briefly about the divided mind. And again, I want you to look at this, go through, look at these pictures, read it. And when there are videos, I want you to watch the videos. Okay? And part of the assignment for this module is you're going to be writing a little bit about the what you're discovering in the divided mind. Now, when I brought a lot of this stuff over, I realized that some of the, well, it brought to question something. When we do essays, I don't have them be very long, and they should be longer. So we're going to talk about that next week, because it's really difficult for us to get really good ideas communicated well with a short essay. So we're going to talk about that next week, talk about making them a little bit longer. And there's something that I need to tell you right now, and I will put it into the syllabus as well. It's already in there, but I want to clarify it. ChatGPT and other AI programs are absolutely amazing. They are incredible. And I want you to use them. I want you to familiarize yourself with them. However, it doesn't matter who did the work first. If you present something or someone else's work as your own, it's cheating, without a doubt. But what you can do is use AI to start collating your ideas, putting them on paper, getting them together. Then, after you do that, you download it and rewrite it in your own words, so it sounds like you speaking. That's the right way to use AI, because then it is your work. You've changed it into your own voice. Some of the dead giveaways are, well, there's actually software that the university provides us with that is able to detect unfiltered AI use. So keep that in mind. And if you turn in something that is unfiltered AI, you'll get a 0 on it. And the first couple times you do it, you will have an opportunity to rewrite it in your own language. But I want you to be thinking about that. It is important to use AI, but it is also important to be honest with what you turn in. So use AI for the rough draft and rewrite it in your own words. Now, as we look at the two sides, we're calling this section the divided mind. This, like I said, this isn't exactly the way things are, but this is how a lot of people think about it. And I think it's a fair way to think about it. The left side of your brain is responsible for things like logic and reasoning, analysis, language, how we use our words, memorizing facts and how things fit together, reading and writing, science and math, sequential information. This is your left side of the brain controls how you remember your numbers and your letters when you memorize those. And it also controls the right movements of the right side of your body. Now, the right side of your brain, the right hemisphere, this focuses on the softer skills like intuition, nonverbal information. When you're talking to somebody, well over 80% of whatever you learn from that conversation is nonverbal. The words, even though we're using words all the time, most of our communication is nonverbal. And your right hemisphere is able to catalog and respond to that. This helps us to determine where we fit in things, how things come together, how things fit together, how things dovetail. When you walk into a room that feels spooky or gross and you want to leave, that feeling comes from the right hemisphere of your brain. You walk into a room and it feels really comfortable and you love being there and you end up meeting a friend there. A lot of the times those feelings come from the right hemisphere of your brain. It's where our imagination is. This is how we enjoy music. This is where we feel emotions. A lot of the times dreams may come from this part. And a lot of the times when you are thinking of how things fit together, when you are thinking of lives intersecting, stories coming together, a lot of the times that kind of thing happens in the right hemisphere of the body, and it controls the left part of your brain. Now, so there are some things that that they do working together a lot. Well, everything that the way that we survive depends on those two parts of the brain working together. I want you to look at this. One part of your brain tells you what that word actually is, black. Another part of your brain, the right side, is saying, but that's not right because this is red. Look at this in blue. We can read it as blue, but our right side of our brain says, no, it's orange. This kind of a thing is a test that is used to govern how extensive brain damage is in people that experience head trauma. It's also a kind of experiment used to determine how socially adjusted people are, determine whether or not somebody's a sociopath. Can you believe that? Just that kind of a simple test, confusing us with the color of the letters themselves with what the letters spell out. And try to read the words out loud as fast as you can and see what happens there. Now, when we go to this next section, there's going to be two different videos to watch. And one of them talks about the brain and the spinal cord. And this person has suffered a stroke, and she talks about that experience there. And then this other video, well, I think that's what most of those videos are talking about. This is a picture, sorry, and this is a video. So watch that. It's about 10 minutes. And then this is somebody who has learned an awful lot about those two hemispheres. And he has a video right here. It's about 11 and a half minutes long. So watch both of those videos, see what you think about them. It doesn't really matter whether or not you agree with them. That's not the point. The point is to learn what these people think and then see if that adjusts how you think. Now, here's a quiz that will be important to take. Most of the quizzes only take 10 or 15 minutes. This will take even less than that. All right, there's 2 questions. So I want you to take these 2 questions. And if you fail the quiz, you can always take it again. That's not a big deal. All right? Now, I wonder how to get out of this. But I'm just going to hit 2 things at random. And I don't know what I got. Let's see. Oh, I missed both of them. So I'd have to take the quiz again. So watch those 2 videos. The quiz is on those 2 videos. All right. Now, as we look at this, then you have a written reflection. It's only 5 minutes, only 5 points. And I really hope I am depending on no problems next week because I want to talk to you guys. I want to see what you think. This is a 50-word short little thing. I don't think that that's very long. And so we'll talk about what you think, what your experience is on it. And the reflection is just going to be a summarization of what you learned about the divided mind. And that's it. It's a really short thing. Now, this is the meat of the class. And again, you do this, and if you follow the directions, you get a better chance of getting the points, whether or not you have artistic skill. These are called blind contour drawings. The way to do this is to draw with a big piece of paper over your hand and the paper you're drawing on so you can't see where things are. The reason is what you're going to be doing is when you draw something, whether or not you feel you're any good, your left side of the brain is keeping track of how the lines relate to each other, and the right side of your brain is keeping track of how things feel. What are the shapes of the lines? When you cover what you're doing with a piece of paper so that you can't see what your drawing hand is doing, all you're doing, your brain is just finding the shapes of the lines. So it's all the right hemisphere of your brain. And I think that that's really interesting. Now, these are all images of hands. Now, again, time is one of the most important factors of getting a good grade on this. You look at these hands, what people have done as a blind contour drawing put their pen down, start drawing, and they just kept drawing every single line that they could. A good way to do this is your non-dominant hand, you hold that on the table next to you so you can see it. And with your dominant hand, you can have somebody put a sweater over that and the paper or whatever so that you can't see through it. And you just draw absolutely every nook and cranny, wrinkle and hair and crease in your non-dominant hand that you see. Draw the fingernails, shade them, scribble in wherever your tattoos are. Do all that. Put as much detail in as you can, and you can see that these are all four hands, but they really do not look a lot like hands. If you feel that it hasn't been enough time, do it again. And you can even do it on the same piece of paper. Move your hand in a different position. We're going to talk about this. For this whole assignment, it's not just drawing the hand. There's two parts to this assignment, several parts. One is catalog of 30 objects. These 30 objects are going to be things where you're just going to be doing simple line drawings out of each of them and then labeling them. This is student work from a couple years ago. And you see that they found 30 objects, and these are cell phones to house keys. The important part is you don't look at the paper as you're drawing. Don't look at it. And spend 1 minute on each of them. So this should take you at least 30 minutes to do. Take a normal household object. You're going to repeat this. You're going to do this a total of 30 times. I give some examples here. Use a pencil and paper. Prepare to spend 1 minute drawing the object. And you can have your roommate time you. And you cannot look at the paper. Draw just what you see. Look only at the object, not anywhere else. And act like you're just tracing it. It'll be very tempting to look down at your paper. Do not look down at your paper. Fight that urge. Once you spend 1 minute, look down at the drawing, then move on to the next. All right? If it looks weird, you're doing it correctly. The point is not to make this look good. The point is to engage the right hemisphere of your brain, and that's it. Part 2 is a blind contour drawing of your hand. This is another really good example. This surprises me because it looks a lot like a hand. But again, you're going to be covering your hand in the paper so you can't see it. And sometimes the easiest way to do that is to put the paper and your hand with the pencil into a box. Tape the paper down at the bottom of the box, put your hand in so you can't see it, and then start drawing. Don't look at your paper. You're going to spend 30 minutes just drawing the hand. If you do it, you're done in 5, do it again. Do it again, do it again, do it again. One person ended up doing 10 3-minute drawings, just layering them on top of each other. And they slightly move their non-dominant hand each time before doing the next drawing. And that's totally fine. The important things for each of these is 1 minute on each of these small ones. That's one part of the submission. 30 minutes on drawing the hand. All right? If you lose track of where you are, just jump right back in. Doesn't matter. Now, we talk about line in a two-dimensional space. You can use a pen to do this, and that is totally fine. I would use something like a ballpoint pen. I would not use like a magic marker. All right? You can use a pencil as well, and that is just fine. What you're going to do to turn this in, when you go to turn this in, is you will take with your your phone, a photo of all 30 and a photo of the hand. And then you'll submit that. Submit both of those. All right. So it'll be 2 images that you submit. I hope that makes sense to everybody. And then I've shown also here the criteria for the drawing. All right. Make sure you have 30 household items that you're drawing. Make sure you spend 30 minutes drawing a hand. I hope that covers our whole module and what we're going to be talking about. Again, I am so sorry for the technical difficulties. I will get this recording up on our YouTube channel and send everybody a link to it right away. It will be, actually, I'm going to show this to you. If you navigate over to modules, I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to share my screen here so that you can see this. When you navigate over to modules, the top one here is attendance. And right here, this is where each of the recordings for every class are going to be. And what you'll need to do is watch this whole recording and then write down 3 things that you learned during this recording. And that's it. And that's how you verify your attendance. All right. And then you'll submit it as like a text document. I hope that clears up anything for, well, I hope that clears up everything for everybody. As we move forward, I really hope that people are able to come to the classes. Again, I'm so sorry about tonight. I did not know. I'm not a computer guy anymore, so I don't know exactly what happened. But I've got it sorted out, I believe. So hopefully it will not happen again. And you do have until Sunday night to watch these recordings. Please, if at all possible, make sure that you come. And if we need to start later than 6:30, if that's too much of a challenge for people to come to, that's fine too. We'll start a little bit later. Just please let me know. And let's see, I will say, if you email me after watching this video and you reference me saying this at the very end of the video, after you submit your 3 things, just mention that you emailed me and you watched all the way to the end of the video, and I will give you an extra credit point for this week's attendance. All right. I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful week. I can't wait to see what you guys do moving forward with this class. So please let me know if you have any concerns, any questions, email me, and we will talk about it the very next class next week. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I can't wait to learn more about you next week when we get together again. We'll see you.